Welcome to the Industrial LASX tutorial video series. Today we will be talking about LASX image analysis for industry. We will be focusing on the basics of this software module, and if you have any questions related to your specific application or questions that have not been covered in today's video, please reach out to your local Leica representative. To open the Image Analysis tab, we click on the Analysis button at the top of the screen. The analysis software is divided into three main sections. In the first section, we have the Configuration tab. This allows us to create and save configurations. In the second section, we have the workflow steps. We will go through these steps in greater detail shortly when we go through an example workflow. And the final section is the active workflow step dialog. This section will change depending on the step and will be used to change parameters and settings for each step that we use. The first step we want to do is create a new configuration. We do this by clicking the Create New Configuration button at the top and giving it a name. If you already have a configuration you created previously, we can select that at this time using the Current Configurations drop-down list. Now that we have made a configuration, we can proceed with our workflow steps. The software shows 11 steps, though only 3 are mandatory for our analysis. Step 1, select images to measure. We have to select an image or images to measure with our analysis. Step 3, adjust threshold. We have to tell the software what on the image we want to count. In other words, we need to set a threshold for our image. And finally, step 7, measurements. This step allows us to review our data and tell the software what information is most important for our analysis. Now that we've covered the required steps, let's load an image and walk through the steps together. In this step, we will select an image or images to measure. We can do this in two ways. First, if we see our image already selected on our viewer screen, we can simply press the Append button to add that image to our list. If we want to analyze an image we captured previously, we can click Show Gallery to open our File Explorer, find the image we captured previously, highlight it, and then press Append to add to our pipeline image list. Now that we have selected our image to be measured, we can move on to Step 3. Step 3, Adjust Threshold. We can adjust our threshold in two ways. Note, depending on if items you want to count are light or dark, we may need to change the drop-down list to count darker than, brighter than, or in between thresholds. The first way is simply to left-click on our image to add that grayscale level to our threshold. If we check the Click and Find or Accumulate box, we can keep clicking on the image until our threshold is set to our preferences. The second way to set the threshold is to drag the sliders on our thresholding graph to the left and right to set the threshold we want. Note that the left side of the graph is black and the right side of the graph is white. Once we are happy with our threshold, we can move on to Step 7. Step 7, Measurements. On the Measurements step, we have a large data table showing information about your sample. Note that the location of the table depends on if you have one or multiple monitors set up with your computer. It will either be located on the left, as seen here, or on the bottom of the screen if you only have one monitor. You can click on your image to select a specific particle. You may notice, as we see in this image, that a few of our particles may have stuck together, forming one larger particle. The software can add filters to our image to help analyze our data. In this case, I'm going to add 2 filters to our image to help. In Step 2 of our software, we have the ability to add filters directly to our image. In this case, I'm interested in my carbon fibers, so I'm going to enhance my black detail on the image. This allows me to make all of my particles the same black color for an easier time setting my threshold. In addition, I'm going to utilize Step 4 in our software and apply a filter to the threshold itself. For this example, I'm going to use our split touching feature that helps to split objects that may be touching in our image, giving me individual measurements for each particle. You may have noticed we have a number of filters available in each step. If you want to know more about each filter, click the small red information button to open our help menu to give more information about the filters. If after doing everything we can to have the software differentiate these objects, we may still have some objects being grouped together and being counted as one. We can utilize Step 5 to manually split the particles as needed. We can simply split the particles by drawing a line between them. In addition, when we're doing our analysis, we may have particles touching the edge of our image that could skew the data as only half the particle might be visible in the field of view. In Step 6, we have the ability to find the area of the image that will be counted as well as remove any particles that are touching the edge from the measurement. To do this, we swap the frame type to Define manually, and check the Clear Details Outside Frame box and select Exclude Touching. You will notice that particles outside or touching the frame are now a different color than those inside the frame. Now that we've set our filters, let's take a look at our data again and see what changed. As you can see, our filters have helped differentiate each carbon fiber separately, allowing us to see each carbon fiber's individual size and measurements. We can now select particles either by clicking on the particle in the image or in the table, and it will highlight the corresponding particles in both locations. Now that we've looked at our data, we can export this information into Excel using Step 11 Create Report functionality. To export our report, we simply click the Export button and all of our images and data will be transferred into our Excel report. The process to run multiple images is almost identical to that of running a single image. To run multiple images, we simply add multiple images to our pipeline image list in Step 1, and then hit the Start Running Measurement Step button, and it will run all of the images together. Now that we've covered this example workflow, I will end with a couple of tips and tricks. When running multiple images at the same time, we can have the software pause at any particular step by clicking next to the step until a pause icon appears. In addition, you can hide unwanted steps of the software by right-clicking the step and selecting Hide Step. Once you've set everything for your workflow, make sure you go back to the top and click the Save icon to save any changes you made for future analysis needs. Thank you for tuning into today's video and best of luck with your analysis.